Hi, my name's Steve Melia. I lecture in transport and planning at UWE, and I was one of the expert speakers at the UK Climate Assembly in February 2020. I'm going to introduce the transport section of this summit and the really challenging task that we have been set to consider: how could we reduce traffic volumes by 40%? The UK has made some progress in reducing its carbon emissions since the 1990s, though not enough. But on transport, there has been no progress. The sixth carbon budget was approved by Parliament recently, requires the UK to cut its emissions by nearly 2/3 between 2019 and the 2030s. And as we'll see, that's going to be very challenging. The net zero law, which was passed in 2019, means that by 2050, the UK must be generating no more emissions than it is able to offset. And the amount of offsetting that is available to us is going to be quite limited. So that effectively means that by 2050 there must be no vehicles circulating which are burning fossil fuels. However, that's not going to be enough on its own. So that means that we're going to have to reduce traffic volumes. Now, the challenge that's been set for Bristol is reducing motor traffic by 40%. So the first thing to say is that is not going to be easy. Now, I've looked at cities which have been successful in reducing their dependence on cars and their share of driving, though I have to say none of them have achieved a cut as dramatic as this. So what sort of things could be done to reduce vehicle mileage? We could increase the cost of fuel. That's probably the simplest, most direct way of doing it. But over the past 20 years, governments have been doing the opposite. They've actually been cutting the tax on petrol, which has been reducing the cost of driving, at the same time as public transport fares have gone up more rapidly than inflation. Second possible method is road pricing. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this over the years, a lot of interest in it, but the only place in Britain which has done it on any scale is central London. It's only a very small part of central London. It has been reasonably successful there. There are some places, and Bristol is going to be one of them, which will be charging certain types of vehicles because of the amount that they pollute. So there will be a clean air zone in Bristol. You can do it through parking constraints. There's several ways of doing this. Parking constraints at a destination can reduce the proportion of people or the number of people who drive. UWE has done this by removing the right to park from most students, and it has changed the way that students travel to the campus. Now, parking constraints can be particularly effective where they drive down car ownership, and in some parts of Bristol this is happening. The big tower, which you can see in that photograph, which is going up, is being built at very high densities where there will be no space for car parking, and so the vast majority of the people who will move into that new development will be unable to own cars. Fourth method Reducing road capacities, taking out a major through route which used to enable people to drive across the city centre. Again, we did a study of this and found that it had reasonably significant impact on the quantity of traffic in the city centre. Closing roads, restricting the types of vehicles which are able to drive along certain roads, taking away road capacity by putting in bus lanes or cycle lanes. All of these things can help to reduce traffic volumes. Finally, there are various ways of directly restricting car ownership or car use, and various European and Asian cities have done this in different ways. Limit the ability of private individuals to buy and register cars. So that's possibly the most extreme and probably the most effective way of doing it. Slightly lower level, certain European cities have introduced temporary bans on driving. So the example that you can see there, which came from Paris, on days of very high pollution, they actually restricted vehicles and said, okay, today only those vehicles which have odd numbered registration plates are allowed to drive. So to sum up, electrification will be essential to this process, but it won't be enough. In order to achieve the legally binding carbon budgets, we will have to make big cuts in traffic volumes as well. Now, unfortunately, positive measures like better public transport, important though they are, don't actually make much difference to traffic volumes on their own. So that means there will have to be some direct measures to cut car ownership and or use, and none of those are going to be easy.